This is VOA Africa.
Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Monday, June 22nd. This is Africa 54. Due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, Voice of America is taking every necessary precaution to safeguard its employees. So our broadcast will look a little different today and in the near future as we, out of an abundance of caution, reduce our staffing at VOA headquarters here in Washington. We're working to help keep you informed about what's going on and appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. At least 7 people were killed in 2 separate attacks by the al-Shabab militant group in Somalia in the last 48 hours. The deadliest attack occurred in Wanlaweyn, 90 kilometers west of Mogadishu, when an improvised explosive device planted near the home of a military officer exploded Saturday evening. Moments later, a second explosion ignited as people gathered at the scene of the first explosion. 5 people were killed, including the wife of the military officer who was not at home at the time. 3 other civilians and a soldier also died in the attack, while 5 others were wounded. The deputy governor of the Lower Shabelle region, Ahmed Yusuf, confirmed the death of the officer's wife to VOA. A Heritage Foundation report says Chinese building projects in Africa could be a possible vector for espionage. Salem Solomon spoke to the author of the report and has the details.
A report by the Heritage Foundation is warning that China may be spying on African government officials from within their own buildings. The US-based conservative think tank found that Chinese companies built at least 186 government buildings in Africa and 14 sensitive telecommunications networks. These buildings include residences of heads of state, parliamentary offices, and police and military headquarters. The author of the report, Joshua Mzervi, senior policy analyst for Africa at the Heritage Foundation, said the research does not prove there is spying going on at these buildings, but he believes the possibility should be explored.
The Chinese government has a long history of all types of surveillance and espionage globally. So we know this is the sort of thing they want to do, the sort of thing they have the capacity to do. And also Africa is important enough to them to do it.
Mzervi noted that private Chinese companies are legally obliged to help the Chinese Communist Party gather intelligence. But during a May press conference, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhou Lijian strongly denounced the report, saying it is filled with lies, illusions, and ideological bias. In a written remark, the spokesperson said, "We urge a certain think tank in the U.S. to spend more time and energy on assisting Africa with real actions instead of spreading lies. The African people have a fair judgment. Attempts to drive a wedge between the friendly partners of China and Africa will only lead to self-inflicted humiliation." Mzervi said the idea for the report came from a 2018 accusation that China had installed listening devices in the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The findings, first published by the French newspaper Le Monde, alleged that servers in the AU headquarters were secretly sending data to a computer system in Shanghai each night. AU and Chinese officials denied the Le Monde report.
China and African countries are happy with their relationship, but some people are not happy. Some people are not used to it, so they want to create some problems.
But Mzervi says China's motives for investing so heavily in building infrastructure for African governments are suspect, since these projects generally are not profitable.
For decades, China, central element of its international diplomatic efforts have been cultivating strong relationships with senior African officials and giving them glitzy, brand new government buildings is clearly a way of building favor with these governments. So clearly these are designed as pieces of political influence.
The Heritage Foundation report found that Chinese companies had built at least 24 African presidential or prime ministerial palaces, residences, or offices, and at least 26 parliaments or parliamentary offices.
It's possible to gather information on specific leaders, learn about their habits, their predilections, their financial situation, things that you could use to manipulate them, or even to to recruit them as an asset, if either through blackmail or just knowing how to tailor your pitch to them.
Ms. Ervi added China may be interested in gathering financial data on African countries for future investments and to gain the upper hand in loan negotiations. Salim Solomon, VOA News, Washington.
Rose is a refugee from Burundi. She has lived in Hong Kong for nearly 5 years. Rose, a single mother who faced significant struggles raising her son in a new country, is turning her life around through two unanticipated pastimes, long-distance runs and hiking along the scenic trails of Hong Kong. Maggie Tan and Michael White produced this story.
Running is my passion. I just regret why I didn't do it before, when I was in my home country. I'm from Burundi. I'm 38 years old. I have been in Hong Kong for almost 5 years. I have one son. We live together. 36. When you are seeking peace, you don't have to choose to go everywhere. You just, where your heart focuses you to go, you just go there. I had to choose one country to go. When I fled my country, I went in a refugee camp to my neighbor country in Rwanda. After that, I went in Uganda. After I came in Hong Kong. Actually, I didn't know about Hong Kong. I just hear Hong Kong in the movies. When I first came in Hong Kong, life was really difficult. Not only about money, and I didn't know anyone. I was new in this big country, no one to help me. I had a small baby. Life was really difficult.
Should we stretch?
Okay. After I know the RAN organization, everything I can say was really good. They not only helping with the rent, but with everything. They try the best that they can.
RUN stands for more than running. RUN stands for rebuild the lives of vulnerable refugees, unite them as a community and with the local Hong Kong community, and nurture them into a more hopeful future through life skills and education.
For my own security, as I don't know this video will go where I will no, I'm not feeling safe that when I show myself. Yeah, I don't feel safe about showing myself. The government gave me for rent for me and my son. Total is 2,250. And you know the house in Hong Kong how are very expensive.
The situation of refugees and asylum seekers is very difficult in Hong Kong. When you're alone with a child, this makes things extremely complicated. It means that you need to rely on NGOs to top up your rent to be able to live in a safe place. NGOs play a very big role for refugees and asylum seekers in Hong Kong, especially when they suffer from trauma. Hong Kong does not offer any rehabilitation service or adult education. Refugees are very resilient and strong people, and they love to challenge themselves like any other person.
My name is Ali. For 6 months I was volunteering regularly and I met Rose, and through 6 months I could see her really progress as a runner, and you can really see her strength build and her confidence build even over that short period of 6 months. And what's also great about the running community is that it really is a community. I think people think it's a very solitary sport, but it really isn't. When you go on these trail races, you see people that are just as crazy as you, just as like-minded, who are willing to go out on the trails for hours and hours on end. Everyone that hikes in the morning, you know, we always say good morning. So just having a smile from a stranger actually, you know, sometimes may be all they need in a day to cheer them up.
And my son is starting school Monday.
Oh, is he? Did he finish his homework?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Yes, but maybe we finish today or tomorrow. Yeah, it's not too much.
She studied law back home, and now she's also a qualified caregiver in Hong Kong. She volunteers in in an elderly care center. She's an amazing mom because her son has quite a bit of energy, and she took a class in a parental class to how to learn to be a good mother.
The time I was thinking there is not hope or there is no peaceful in my life. It was only sitting and crying all the time. I could not feel happy. I could not give a good example to my son because I was like in deep darkness. I could not look forward because I was thinking I don't have tomorrow. But now everything has changed.
I think her longest distance is 35K, but she really smashed it. She's now a very confident, independent and self-reliant mother who just simply cannot wait to restart her life.
To have hope in your life, it's like to think that your tomorrow is good. To think in a positive way. Hong Kong now is my home. When I go back, I will not stop running.
Many Americans celebrated Juneteenth on Friday, commemorating the day the last enslaved African Americans learned they were free. The Emancipation Proclamation officially freed slaves in America in 1862, but the last enslaved Black people were not released until 2 years later on June 19th. This year, Juneteenth celebrations took on greater significance amid weeks of anti-racist protests. VOA's Jason Patinkin reports.
On Friday, June 19th, Americans celebrated Juneteenth, the day commemorating the end of slavery in the United States 155 years ago. Juneteenth has never been widely celebrated in America outside the Black community, but amid weeks of nationwide protests against racism and police brutality, this year the day went mainstream.
I feel blackity black. I just am so excited and so happy to finally celebrate a day that really truly feels like it's for us. We're making a lot of good growth and leaps and bounds in this short amount of time. People are getting angry in this movement. People are sad and happy, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yeah. Honestly, I really feel like I'm just truly excited. This is the first year I feel like Juneteenth is actually being celebrated. And it's just so exciting to see so many people of color out here, especially Black people that are out here actually supporting. I've been so, even though it's a heavy time, it's still exciting to see so many of us celebrating being Black.
Numerous U.S. states declared this year's Juneteenth as an official holiday, including Virginia and New York, two states that in previous centuries allowed slavery. Many Americans are now calling for Juneteenth to be declared a nationwide federal holiday, on par with the 4th of July, which marks America's independence from Great Britain in 1776.
It's very important to make Juneteenth a federal holiday because you have to understand that we have built America from the ground. It's a day that's actually recognized that we need so we can realize that we're here, we're important, we matter. And at the end of the day, we're not going anywhere because we deserve freedom, peace, and happiness just like anybody else.
Even without the U.S. government's recognition of the day, many businesses gave their workers a paid day off on June 19th anyway.
My firm is based in Europe, and they really didn't know the significance of June 19th, and they declared June 19th a paid holiday for our firm. So, and they actually apologized that they didn't know the significance of June 19th and immediately declared it a paid holiday. So it takes change like that, local change. We can't expect our federal government to make local changes. Real change starts locally, it starts in the community, and it dominoes effects on the federal and international level.
The celebrations continued long into the night. Jason Patinkin for VOA News, Washington.
We're excited to hear what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the discussion on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our broadcast live on Facebook. Please watch and share our show with your friends. Also check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, a Nigerian research scholar in California helps seniors with dementia cope with stress. We'll be right back after this break.
Hello, I'm Lina Ormoudou, your VOA Health correspondent. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the World Health Organization says there are currently no drugs licensed for the treatment or prevention of COVID-19, and there is no proof that hydroxychloroquine or any other drug can cure or prevent coronavirus. The misuse of hydroxychloroquine can cause serious side effects, illness, and even lead to death. For more information on COVID-19, visit who.int or contact your local or national health authorities.
Welcome back to Africa 54. As protests against racial discrimination continue in many American cities, President Donald Trump returned to the campaign trail in Tulsa, Oklahoma. As VOA's Ken Faribault reports, the desire to get back to a sense of normalcy across the country is tempered by a spike of COVID-19 cases in many U.S. states.
Before a crowd of thousands of supporters at the Bank of Oklahoma Center in Tulsa, President Donald Trump acknowledged the increasing number of coronavirus cases in the country.
When you do testing to that extent, you're going to find more people, you're going to find more cases.
The president's desire to get the country opened back up after months of restrictions was met with enthusiastic support by those attending his rally.
Let's open the schools, please. Open.
As health officials continue to monitor the growing number of COVID-19 infections, gatherings and protests against racial discrimination and police brutality continue across the country, with demonstrators removing statues, including those honoring Confederate leaders from the U.S. Civil War. U.S. Senator from South Carolina, Republican Tim Scott, who is working to draft police reform legislation, says more funding to law enforcement agencies, not less, is needed at the federal level.
If you want officers to be trained effectively, you have to give them the tools called training to get there. That requires more resources. We know that if you want more information on the federal level, that requires more resources for record keeping.
Scott also says federal funding would ensure law enforcement agencies follow the legislation.
It is important for us to use the resources that we provide to law enforcement in a way to get them to compel them towards the direction that we think is in the best interest of the nation, of the communities that they serve, and frankly, of the officers themselves.
As lawmakers continue to work to reform law enforcement practices both political parties can agree on, it comes at a time when much of Washington is digesting the revelations in former National Security Advisor John Bolton's book, The Room Where It Happened, offering an insider look at the Trump administration. The book is an unflattering portrayal of President Trump's leadership.
But I think that that lack of touch, that lack of sensibility and judgment that John Bolton talks about, you can see in his handling of the public protests after George Floyd's murder 3 weeks ago.
White House advisor Peter Navarro dismisses many of the accusations Bolton makes in his book.
He got fired because he did not obey the chain of command, because his views were totally out of sync with President Donald J. Trump with respect to how to handle international affairs. And he's basically breaking all manner of tradition in terms of issuing a book at this stage. And he's going to make a bunch of money.
The Department of Justice tried to block the release of Bolton's book over concerns it contained classified information. But a federal judge ruled Saturday the publication's release could move forward. Kane Fairbaugh, VOA News.
The World Health Organization is reporting a global jump of 183,000 new confirmed COVID-19 cases, the largest single-day increase it has recorded since the pandemic began. WHO officials say for several weeks, their focus of the outbreak is in the Americas, and Sunday's numbers showed a one-day rise of more than 116,000 cases in that region. Brazil led with nearly 55,000 new cases, followed by the United States with more than 36,000, and India with about 15,000 new cases. Meanwhile, South Africa's rand weakened early on Monday, reflecting the gloom in global markets as fears of a second wave of coronavirus infections around the world increased investor jitters ahead of a local emergency budget later this week, according to Reuters. A former Mandela Washington Fellow from Nigeria is back in the US as a research scholar in brain health. When COVID-19 hit the world, Kunle Adiwale, who is also an accomplished artist, found ways to help seniors with dementia in San Francisco, California, cope with the stress of the pandemic. Earlier, I spoke to Kunle.
I'm trying to understand the dynamics of art and neuroscience, the connection between art and neuroscience. And during this global pandemic, coronavirus, I partner with Alzheimer's Association of Northern California and Northern Nevada to be able to facilitate virtual art engagement for seniors living with dementia. So it's been a great experience for me being able to use technology to facilitate art-based interventions for these seniors who normally go to museums and visit galleries to have art experience.
But as a research scholar in brain health, how are you able to use technology and social media to facilitate engagements during this pandemic?
The fact that there's lockdown, technology become like a necessity and a leverage to be able to connect with people. So earlier this month, we did a virtual conference called VICA, Virtual International Conference for Art in Health, with the theme Art Responders in Global Health Crisis, COVID-19. And then so we were able to use the social media to be able to recruit people from all over the world. And we had over 300 people who actually signed up to participate in this program from all over the world, with representatives from over 37 countries, including Australia, Canada, Tanzania, Nigeria, Kenya, UK, England, UAE, India, from all around the world on how we can use creative engagement to respond to COVID-19.
Are you able to collaborate with other artists in your native country of Nigeria to help those affected by COVID-19?
Interestingly, my organization, Art in Medicine Project, we recently collaborated with Lagos State Ministry of Health, the Art for Life initiative of the Lagos State Ministry of Health, to facilitate therapeutic music for persons affected by COVID-19 and also the healthcare workers who are actually at the front line. It's been a great experience to be able to find hope in the midst of darkness using music as a vehicle.
Wow, it's always amazing to hear what artists can do. And indeed, most of them come up with great ideas during a crisis. And I'm just wondering, are you creating any artwork in the midst of this pandemic?
In the midst of the pandemic, I've been working and creating works of art. And my works actually is targeted to host my first international solo exhibition, which is going to be like virtually. And then I'm doing that also in partnership with the Global Brain Health Institute here in San Francisco, also in partnership with Alzheimer's Association of Northern California and Northern Nevada, to be able to facilitate this creative opportunity for people to be able to experience joy.
How has the response been working with seniors? What do you see from their faces when you entertain them?
It's been an incredible experience. I'm knowing fully well that one of the major things that came out of this COVID-19 is mental health problem already. And then you talk about the feeling of hopelessness, depression, isolation, loneliness. So we see that this is very, very critical and very, very important to be able to know that in this time, seniors are not alone. They are not left behind, because they are also affected just like everyone. So through this art engagement, we believe very strongly that hope is coming, joy is coming, happiness is coming, and then there is so much positivity around what we do. And also back home in Nigeria, we had a global art drive to really collect works of art from around the world, how artists are really responding to the global health crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic. We also did what we call love letters, where we have people who are sending letters from around the world to be able to, use text as a form of information to inspire joy and send, words of healing, words of prayer to patients and people who are affected by COVID-19, and also for healthcare workers who are really working on the front line to tell them and let them know you are not alone. We are with you, and our prayers, our love, and our light are with you always.
Kunle Adiwale is a research scholar in brain health in San Francisco, California. An increased number of Nigerian children are in the labor force right now because schools have closed due to the coronavirus pandemic. Experts monitoring child labor in the country say since the pandemic shutdown, more children are working as hawkers, cleaners, or on city streets begging to earn money to help their families. Timothy Obiezu reports from Abuja.
Abubakar Muhammad has been learning carpentry and making furniture since he was 9 years old. Now 15, and with his school closed because of the coronavirus, he is working full-time to support his family.
I'm missing school. I just wait here for this coronavirus to go, and I'm just stay here to make some money so that when school resumes, I go back to school.
Abubakar's mother welcomes the support, saying she decided to give him a head start on learning a craft.
I told him to learn a handwork because there's no money at home, and when his father is no more, he'll be able to take care of his younger ones.
Even though child labor in Nigeria has been outlawed since 2003, the practice is widespread in the African nation. Valentine Inzi owns the workshop where Mohammed and 6 other boys ply their trade.
If their parent wants to bring us to work under us, we don't collect money. We said we will look on their skills. We don't collect their money. Maybe at the end, the boys might not stay. They might not work. If they are serious, that's when we now bargain on, see what we want.
An estimated 15 million Nigerian children are in the labor force, according to the International Labour Organization, the highest total in West Africa. The ILO says Nigeria's relaxation of lockdown measures while keeping schools closed has triggered a rapid rise in the child labor rate.
Now that the lockdown has been lessened, that we have at least a level of movement, these children actually are out there working. So he make ends meet for their family, to care for their home, and to be able to at least provide food for their families. So right now we have more children definitely out there working as laborers.
Child labor advocates point to poverty and cultural perceptions as major obstacles to eliminating child labor in Nigeria. Even though online education models are being developed to keep children busy during this period, many like Mohammed have no access to online schooling. So they will continue to work as they wait for schools to reopen. Timothy Obiezu for VOA News, Abuja.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thank you for watching.